I'm going to come back, and you heard that name Chestnut. I'm going to come back to that name later, because that's a very important name in my research. It should be noted that G.W. Jackson was also a Sunday school superintendent of the Bethel AME Church. There you go. He was also the Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Union of Oddfellows. Now, I have an original document, one of my few original documents of Professor Jackson as the Grand Master of that lodge, and it's sitting on the table over there. And you're welcome to look at all the things there you're welcome to pick up and look at. On the front, it's dated 1929, and it's from Professor Jackson, as he's just talking about the basic business of the Oddfellows. If you turn it over, it has got signatures all over it. So I'd invite you to go and turn that over and look and see if you can identify any of those signatures on there. So again, he was that Deputy Grand Master of that Oddfellows Lodge. And then he was a prominent member of what was then known in 1915 as the Negro League of Corsicana. Now, I also have a document over there. It was an article that he wrote in 1915. And on that document, the president of the league, Business League, was Samuel J. Chestnut. He's the president. And the next signature right behind his is Professor Jackson's. Through that, then you see a whole list of different names. So I'd invite you later on to look at that and see if you might identify some of the names that were part of that business league. Also, this is interesting. I found some documents of Professor Jackson's from the newspaper that at one point they were about to build a seminary for black pastors in Corsicana. And they already had the money collected. It was ready to go. I have no idea what happened to that, but it is part of the history, is that there was a seminary planned to be put here in Corsicana, and that was through the workings of Professor Jackson. Also, I talked with Ms. Gwen about that, and this is not a history, we don't know for sure, but this is interesting. And I hope it's true, because he'll be a folk hero of mine if this is true. It looks like from 1889 that there were some articles that Professor Jackson may, at least for a short term, have been a deputy sheriff, because he caught some desperados in 1889, and it's in the newspaper. It says G.W. Jackson, and it has on there a man named James Hendricks, who was part of a gang called the Tickle Gang, and they were captured, and the man tried to escape, and in the altercation, G.W. Jackson shoots him. And in these newspaper articles, he is first, because when you do that, you have to go into the court and go through an examination. And it says in the newspaper that he was examined and exonerated as doing his duty. So if that is true, and I've looked, I cannot find another G.W. Jackson in Corsicana in 1889. He's the only one in the directory. So if that is true, then Professor Jackson, he was a cowboy. So good for him. In fact, people said, well, he was so mild-mannered, how can you do that? Well, he was also a man of duty. He did what he had to do when he had to do it. So I'm still doing research on that. So all I have to do, though, is just identify that truly is him, but it may be. Another little bit of trivia is that Professor Jackson first lived on North 6th Street. You may not know that. Now, all y'all remember the house that he lived on MLK 31. He actually started out on 6th Street, and the reason that he moved is that you find by 1910 is that the Trinity Brazos Valley Railway came down 6th and took that street over as the roadbed. So his house actually was facing the tracks. So it'd be a logical thing to say, well, obviously he would have moved his house to where we basically know him to have lived. And what's interesting is that it's just, if you go to the old depot, you know the old depot, it's there now, just the block, just across the street on the corner, that would have been his original house. So G.W. Jackson's original house was on that corner, and then when the railroad came through, then he moved over to MLK 31. There were at least 2 churches that you can see in that map. Only about 1886, there were only 2 churches there. I know there are several that have come up down through the years. There's some that have been established later on, especially in the 20s and 30s and further on. But the 2 original churches that will be in my miniature are going to be Second Baptist and also Bethel AME. You can go ahead and cheer again. There you go. Okay, so, and you can kind of help me with this. Bethel obviously will be the building that's there now, because that building historically would be within the time frame of my project. So that's the one I will build there now, no question. The Baptist church, I still have some question about, in that the one that's there now was built in 1917. It could be in the miniature, or I can build that one. I haven't decided which one to build yet. So I'll let y'all mull that over, and y'all can lobby me later for which one you want built. But I'm going to do one or the other, either the one that's there now or the one that was in this picture here. I have another photograph of that one as well. That's very good. Now, this photograph is very rare. This is a photograph of Northeast Corsicana taken in the early 1890s. And what you'll see, I'm going to use my pointer on this picture here. That is Second Baptist Church. This picture right here, this is Bethel AME, the original building for Bethel AME. If you look way off to the back, see that way, way, way back there? That's East Side School, also later known as Crockett. It's way, way back in the background. Of course, so you can tell now this is in the peak of the oil era because there are oil derricks all over the place here. So this gives me a good picture of some of the residences that were there, also the church. Again, I haven't decided yet which I'm going to build, this one or the one there now. And of course, I won't build that one. I will build the AME church that's there at present time, which would be right behind the steeple of this one in today's time. This is Booker T. Washington. Now, it should be known and noted that he himself visited Corsicana. He did a speech at the baseball field called Municipal Park over by the cotton mill that we know over there in the southeast end of town. And that was on October 1st of 1911. His wife, Margaret, preceded him in April 13th of 1911, and she gave a talk at the First Independent Baptist Church. So she was here first. Then Booker T. Washington came and gave a speech here in Corsicana. According to the newspapers, and this is all from, again, Professor Jackson is writing all this. We're getting all this information from Professor Jackson. He comes that morning. It was a Sunday morning. They have an assembly at the Oddfellows building, which I'll give you. If you don't know where that was, I'll have a map I can show you a little bit later. But they met at the GUOOF, and they had a parade. Now, this is October, so it wasn't hot. They walked from the Oddfellows building down to Beaton Street, then walked down Beaton, then cut across into the Municipal Park, and that's where the speech took place. We don't have any transcript of B.T. Washington's speech here in Environment Publications, but he went from here to Fort Worth and to Dallas, and those papers did cover a lot of his text, and they're the same text. So what he spoke in Dallas, Fort Worth would have been probably more than likely the same speech here. So in time, I'm going to collate some of those things and give you outline of what the speech was he gave in Corsicana. But again, he was here in 1911. And this is the letter that Edward Earl of Corsicana's manual training program wrote to Booker T. Washington. This was an actual letter that he was giving a recommendation to him. This is dated in 1911. This would have been about the time that the school first took on the name Fred Douglass. And then, if you look at the miniature, you'll notice on the far left corner, there's a little boy swinging on a tire swing. Now, people have wondered, who is that little boy on the swing? Well, another notable figure in this swinging tree is that this is the only animated feature I have on any of my miniatures. He represents a little boy. His name was Clifford. And Clifford was born to Mac Ingram, who worked at the Union Depot, and his mother, Mamie. And he later graduated from Northwestern University with a degree in medicine. So he actually had the degree to be a medical doctor. But he later decided to become an actor. And he changed his name to Rex Ingram. Rex Ingram was known in Hollywood as the Dean of Black Actors. Ingram gave a talk at Jackson High in 1966. Don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that, but that was the last appearance he made in Corsicana. His family still lived here. He still had family here. On a side note, if you look on the internet and try to find his history, you'll often find it coming up that he was born in Cairo, Illinois. He was not born in Cairo, Illinois. It says that his father worked on a steamship. His father did not work on a steamship. The reason that came up at the time is that Hollywood was known for putting out different kinds of propaganda to promote movies. Now, Rex Ingram played a lead role in the movie The Green Pasture. He also was in Thieves of Baghdad, played the genie. He was in many, many movies. But one of his most memorable roles is he played Jim, the runaway slave, in Huckleberry Finn. And if you remember the movie, when Jim finally gets his freedom, he crosses over into Cairo, Illinois. And that's why Hollywood tries to promote him as being born in Cairo, Illinois. But he was not born there. He was born in Corsicana. He is here from Corsicana. When he made that speech in 1966, when he got out of the car, he didn't go straight into the Jackson High School building. He stopped at a tree that's in front of the building. And he just stood there. And the people looked at him and said, what's he doing? And he looked at it and he turned to them and he said, "This tree is very special to me. I could be as far away as 15,000 miles and still think about that tree." And so that's why I have the little miniature of the little boy swinging on the tree in front of the Fred Douglass miniature. That's in homage to Rex Ingram. Now, this is a picture that I used as my model to do the Fred Douglass School. As you notice there, the red indicates a brick building, and then on the other side you see the yellow indicates a wooden building. So the Garrity Allen Industrial Cottage is the only one that's labeled, but the others are labeled schoolrooms. So what I've got there's the Fred Douglass School, of course, and this I have designated as the band hall. There's the domestic science department, and this is the manual training school. Now, if you notice, there's one more building there. This, I'm just taking poetic license because we know that by 1914 that G.W. Jackson has began to expand the school programs. He added what was really, at that point, the official grammar school of the Douglass School facility. And he named it Booker T. Washington. And that was the forerunner of the Booker T. Washington Elementary School. So that is what I am designating as that building, because this goes to about that time period. So this schoolroom building I would then call the first. Now I know you guys know there are other facilities that it occupied, but I am kind of saying at this point I would think that might be the Booker T. Washington building. And that's what I have it designated there. That would be right behind the domestic science building as the first time that Professor Jackson expanded that. Okay, the early, so I assume that at the Tuskegee Project, there were many students who graduated from Douglass who went on to go to Tuskegee. Some of them learned the programs there and went on to start Tuskegee programs in other schools. I know one graduate from the Douglass School went on to teach at Hillsborough and started a Tuskegee program there as well. So it's not all inclusive, but it does depict the heaviest concentration of the institutions in that part of Northeast Corsicana. So what I'm doing now, this is the project when completed. What you see on this side is what it's complete now. It's what you see there. So this is the Douglass School and the campus. I call it the Tuskegee campus. And then this side will become the other part. It will include the First Independent or Second Baptist Church, whichever one I choose to put there. And Bethel AME is right here. There'll be several residences around here. There is a brick building at one time that was there in 1910, and it was at one time a grocery store and a tailor shop. And over here, and this area, this is one I'm really trying to focus on, and I want to get y'all's help on this. If anybody has a photograph or knows of any family member that might have a photograph, this is S.J. Chestnut's Grocery. Next to it was the Chestnut Home. The Chestnut Home was a very nice home. You look at the footprint. It's got a very nice design with a wraparound porch. I'm sure it was a beautiful home, but unfortunately there are no photographs at this point that I can find of that home. Now later on, if you look at that big picture that I have on the table, that was taken in 1936. The Chestnut building is still there, but the home is gone. If you're kind of wondering now, where is all this? I don't know if it's still called Whistler, but is it Whistler's Wrecking Yard or It's the wrecking yard that's there. That's where the Chestnut home and the grocery store used to be. And it said, Mr. Chestnut was a very prominent businessman in the late 1800s, apparently a good friend of Professor Jackson's. I don't know if he went to AME or not, if that was his home or not, his church. It may be. But that would be his home and the grocery. And it was there for quite a long time. So I would love to build that. If anybody can come up with some good pictures of that, I would love to build those two structures. So when this is complete, you'll be able to walk through there. You notice the space in there. I'm going to do it deliberately because one thing, there is a little space. In reality, there's a couple of blocks between this part and the school. We all know that. There's at least 2 blocks between them. So that would make a natural passway for you to be able to walk through it and view it. So you can view that. You can view the Douglas School campus, or you can go around and then see all this. You have good viewing. You'll be able to view all the churches very clearly. Go around and see the Chestnut Estate. And this right here, this is the GUOF Hall. This is the Oddfellows Hall. That's where it was located. There's a building there now. I don't know how old that building is. I think there's some kind of a vocational program there, but that was originally the Oddfellows Hall. That's where it was located. And I will be building that, and that, of course, would be the spot where Booker T. Washington began his parade to go to the rally. And see, all of this is right here together, so it'll be a nice, easy view to be able to see these things. Now, if your church is not up there, I apologize. That's because it's not old enough. I'm only doing the stuff that goes before World War I. So this is basically what everything looked like before World War I. There'll be that walkthrough. I just mentioned that. This also is Dr. Will Coleman. Dr. Will Coleman was also a graduate of the Douglas School, and he later on became the first veterinarian in the state of Texas. Now, I'm going to fudge a little on my miniature. I'm going to have him in the miniature. I'm going to have a panel wagon with his name on it. Technically, he didn't become a veterinarian in Corsicana until the 1920s, but he was a graduate. There was a space in between where he was out of town and came back. But in the miniature, he'll be in the miniature because he is hometown, and he was the first veterinarian of Texas, so I want to be sure he gets in there. So the other things I will include, I'll have that, and Chestnut's estate, I mentioned that. And as you see on the footprint of the map, there were two grocery stores, the Baptist Church and the Methodist Church. And I know there are more things to learn. There are a lot. I'm just scratching the surface of all the different things that I'm discovering about Northeast Corsicana and the impact that Professor Jackson had on there, and also the impact that Booker T. Washington had here. That's a history that I sure don't want to see lost either. It was the great impact he had upon Corsicana as well. And all the other merchants, if you look at the merchants, I'm researching more and more of those. One of them, I noticed, owned a shop called Banner Printing Company. Have you ever heard of that? That was a company that was in Northeast Corsicana, one of the merchants of that business league. He was also a fireman. I'll have to look it up. Well, I'll tell you, I can look it up real quick here. I've got it written down. Oh, his name was George Webster. George Webster he owned the Banner Printing Company. He was also a fireman. He had signed up for this petition. I'll tell you about the petition real quickly, and I'll begin to wrap things up. The petition involves, in 1915, and this is the first time that we have writings that G.W. Jackson refers to the old Douglas School as one of the first, if not the first, brick school for a black community in Texas. But he said it's becoming run down, so we need more equipment. It's old. We need more. We need to build an annex to it. We need to build a new school to it. So in 1915, he put this petition together, and they did. In the next year, in 1916, they built a new 2-story annex to the Douglas School right behind it, and it was well timed because in 1920, the old school burned. So that between 1920 and 1923, when the Jackson High building was built, that everyone knows about, there was a 2-story building behind it that the students had to use, which was basically what Professor Jackson had gotten the city to put a bond on to build. So that was built just in time for that old building to burn, and so everybody attended that 2-story building until 1923, when the Jackson building that we all know and remember was built. And I looked at the maps for 1931. It looks like it didn't last very long, that annex, because I don't think anybody here would probably remember that annex. But it served as a buffer between the burning of the Douglas School and the building of the Jackson School. So that concludes the actual details of the history. So does anybody have any questions? And feel free, if you don't want to give me a question now, I'm going to stay around and hang out. You can ask me out there too. The scale is 1/4 scale, also known as 1/48. It's the same as like a Lionel train. Yeah, as you see the miniature over there, you can see that's a Lionel train size. I started with that scale because HO was too small. You really couldn't see a lot. And the G scale was too big. If I were to build that thing in G scale, it would be as big as that table, and it was just too big. So that's what I arrived at, is the O scale, which is 1/4 scale. Any other questions? He said his wife's great-grandmother? So Susan Lane's great-grandfather. Yeah, I grew up here, so I know all these guys, yeah. Okay, good. I didn't realize that. Great. And seriously, if anybody's got anything on the Chestnut family, I really do want to make a good miniature of that grocery store and house. So if anybody finds that, I really want to find a picture of that. Yes. There was a newspaper. It was a black community newspaper. It did exist, and like I say, his fingerprint was on everything. So I'm sure he was right in the middle of that one as well. There was a newspaper for a brief time in Corsicana that was a black newspaper. There was. Okay, that'd be great. If it's there, I can build it. I just want to make sure if it's there, it's within the range I can put through. In fact, now you bring that up. I was looking on the map just the other day, and there is a building catty-cornered from the building, about that same spot. And I looked, and if you look real carefully, it looks like a church. And that goes way back if that's on that map. So, but it was a small kind of shotgun shape. It looks like it has a manse on the back of it. So it may have been a church building. Okay. Oh, I was asked to mention this on the project. You're doing the park. If you look on the map, right where that man's blocking me, there was actually a park on the site where Professor Jackson's house was in 1886. It covered the entire block. It had 4 fountains on each corner and a 2-tiered gazebo, and it was there in 1886. And I was noticing as I drove over in that area looking around, there's a large house that's still there. It would have been the back portion of where Professor Jackson's house was. And there are a lot of trees of different varieties growing there, very large trees. And I was just thinking, it wouldn't surprise me if some of those trees might have been carryovers from the old park that was there. But there was an entire city block where he lived that was a park back in 1886. I don't know how long it was there, but it is on the map. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I will be glad to hang out back here, and you can still ask me questions and give me information. I'm always looking for information. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. We're almost finished, but we wanted our distinguished guest, Mr. Ron Maxfield. I wrote it on my piece of paper. Pastor Marlow, Oklahoma. We just wanted you to know that we are so grateful, we're so blessed, we're so favored and highly blessed that you are able to leave your busy schedule, your ministry, and come and minister to us about our heritage, the displays, all that good stuff. We're excited. We're elated over that. And we wanted you to have this little token of appreciation to let you know that you'll be able to look like us.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Sister Chance, if I may just take a point of privilege quickly. Would the members of Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church please stand? The proud pastors, the Reverend Dr. Robert L. Uzzell and First Lady Dr. Deborah Bass Uzzell. So yes, we're excited. The miniatures and the other things portraying and the history of our church. This year, this November, we will celebrate 149 years on that corner of 4th and Collins. So we're quite excited about that. And Ms. Chance, did you want me to introduce the board? Okay, great. The hardest working woman this side of the Mississippi River is Miss Gwen Chance. Yes. I stand before you as the Vice President, Penny Liggins, the Treasurer, Miss Ruby Williams. You hadn't been here if you don't know Ruby. And she is Councilwoman. Secretary Jasmine White. Yes, yes. You have to always invite the young people and make them and give them something positive to do so they can learn from some of us that are close to senior citizen status. But nonetheless, I'm your big sister. You know that. Got you. Mr. Charles Betts, I don't believe he's here this afternoon. Joe Brooks, well, Joe Brooks. Yes, a very giving and wonderful soul. Mrs. L. Marie Burrell, she's retired from teaching, but you would never know it. She is busy. A newcomer, Amy Tidwell. Amy? There she is in the back. Yes, always on duty, always willing to help. So happy to have you on board. Thank you. Yes. Okay, Lauren Betso. Is she still here, Lauren? Yeah, there, Lauren. All right. Yeah. Another newcomer. Leah Blackert. Is she here? No, she's not here. Okay. She's always involved with the palette, so, she might be calling the president or somebody to get them to come to Corsicana for a program or something. Who knows? But she's busy like that. Belinda Burkhart. Yes, another willing worker, the sweetest can be. Lowell Dunn, I don't believe he's there this afternoon. Lois Garrett, we can always find Lois at Super One. We can get the hookup with Lois. Okay, maybe I wasn't supposed to tell you about the hookup. But anyway, Sister Lois Garrett, sweet person. Dr. Kenneth Martin, I don't believe he's here this afternoon, and he also is a member of Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. I'm just excited. Mary Jane McReynolds. Yes, thank you. Another newcomer. And Nancy Rebel. Yes. And we publicly want to thank her again, giving us the hookup with the facility for our young man to come down and do the sculpture. That was just, our heart just still is excited and elated over that. What you and your husband did for that. So we thank you so much. So if you ever want to become a part of us and be excited about the dream and everything that Sister Hart, Mrs. Lloyd Jean Hart, that's the church in me, Mrs. Hart had established, and now that Miss Chance is carrying on the dream, we would like for you to be a part of that. We absolutely, positively, really would. So, if you want to be a part of it, let us know. We'll find something for you to do. I guarantee you that we will find something for you to help us do. Thank you so much.
I am L. Marie Rhodes Burrell. I'm a member of the G.W. Jackson Multicultural Society, Incorporated. We want to thank the following: Dr. Fagan, President of Navarro College, and his staff, Ms. Carol Davenport, Reverend Derry Johnson, Corey Dickerson, who was the videographer, is he here? And Miss Debbie Talley, who prepared the delicious lunches for us. We currently have pledges from individuals for memorial bricks, benches, pavers, trees, flowers, and native grasses. We invite you to consider donating a convenient amount to make the project a successful one. We still need pledges to complete our goal, so we invite you to please take a moment to complete the registration form on your table and leave it there. We will collect them later. Again, we thank you for your presence today. We invite you to visit our website at gwjacksonsociety.org. There you will find today's video of the program. Please view it and feel free to invite others to to view the video and the website. You will find more information about the organization on the website. Thank you again on behalf of the G.W. Jackson Multicultural Society. We thank you for your presence today. And please, on your way out, please take a look at how the park will be after we all have built it with your participation. And the picture of G.W. Jackson, and there was another one, the park, and I guess that, the sculpture, yes, the beautiful, wonderful sculpture that was done by Spencer. Thank you very much for your presence today.